Hello, my name is Stephanie Holko, and I'm presenting the project scope for the Advanced Manufacturing Technology program at EMGEN. For this Advanced Manufacturing Technology funding program, the scope for eligible projects include advanced manufacturing technologies, the novel manufacturing and production processes, closed-loop and generative design for manufacturing, circular economy processes and capabilities, and the involvement or support from a customer along the supply chain greatly strengthens project proposals because it shows a willingness in the industry and in the supply chain to support the technology development. All of the projects that ENGEN funds feature 4 pillars. Each project is transformative, it's net new to the world, or it's the application of an existing technology in a new way, and it has to have the potential for significant impact into the industry. Has to be applied, so there has to be a pathway to commercialization for the technology and process. Has to be enduring, so there has to be broader benefits to Canada's manufacturing ecosystem and to Canadians in general. And every project has to be collaborative, so 2 or more industry partners coming together to develop something that is more than they could have created on their own. And you share in the knowledge development, the risk, and the investment in the project as well as the benefits. Each project should involve the participation of at least one SME. The funding terms for this program are shown here. With this funding program, ENGEN is targeting $95 million of co-investment with industry. Projects must be focused on the development, implementation, and commercialization of the technology. They must be business-led and they must be collaborative. Each project consortium has to have at least 2 industry partners, including 1 small to medium-sized enterprise. That's not to say more partners can't be involved, but there has to be at least 2. The total cost of the project should be somewhere between $1.5 to $8 million for the total scope that's involved. ENGEN will reimburse 37% of eligible costs for that project scope. Any one partner cannot receive more than 70% of ENGEN funding, and this is because of the collaborative nature of the project. Projects must be complete, and all eligible paid expenses should be incurred before the 31st of March 2028. ENGEN funding is 100% stackable with other programs, and there is an admin fee for this at the time of contracting of 3.5% of total project cost. Organizations that are eligible to apply can be seen here. So funding recipients must be registered in Canada and have a value-added presence in Canada beyond a sales office. They must be for-profit organizations or not-for-profit organizations that facilitate and fund research and development and whose funding is primarily received from private sector organizations, or a non-federal Crown corporation whose funding is derived from commercial activities, or Indigenous organizations. International organizations, offshore companies and research organizations without an incorporated presence in Canada may also participate in the projects, but any project activity undertaken by these organizations will not be eligible for funding. And if you follow that back to the funding rules, that means you still need 2 Canadian partners to satisfy the project requirements. Projects that will be deemed out of scope include activities where the benefits accrue to a single firm or organization. The collaboration, the sharing of the risk and the benefits should be between the partners. Projects that would be undertaken at the same time, scale, or scope without the funding will be deemed out of scope as well. Projects that focus primarily on product development or design of products will be deemed out of scope. Projects related to experimental or theoretical work without pathway to commercialization will be deemed out of scope. Production activities themselves or activities that subsidize full-scale production will be deemed out of scope. And capital investment for production or purposes not related to the project, that's an ineligible expense and we won't include that. Any activities that could be viewed as anti-competitive will also be deemed out of scope for NGen. And any routine or periodic changes made to existing products, production lines, etc., will be deemed out of scope. And this is because we are looking for the transformative nature of your project. And if it's routine, then it's not demonstrating that same kind of transformation. If you're unsure about where your scope falls, please drop us a line at project@ngen.ca. The key dates for this funding stream are coming up quickly. May 12th, 2023 is a screening application deadline in Salesforce. For a screening application, you require a couple of paragraphs on the scope of your project so we can deem whether it's in scope for NGen funding or not, naming who the partners are, a rough budget, and an application agreement must be signed by all parties. After that, you have a month, till June 15th, to complete your final application. How to prepare a strong application. So beyond what we've just shared, there are some things that can help you create a stronger application, one that would stand out. For a strong application, you want to start with reading the project guide and the finance guide in detail, because this will give you it will answer many of your questions and it will give you the kind of detail that you're looking for. But don't start with the application questions. Once you have an understanding of what's involved, have a partnership meeting with your collaborators and plan it out. Everything will come from the project that you plan with your partners, and it helps everyone to understand what's at stake and how they can contribute. Once you've planned that out, the rest of the application will fall from that plan. So it really helps everybody win. Think about outside of the business benefits. Think about how you achieve the NGen program goals. How do we support advanced manufacturing in Canada? And how that connects to the goals of the project and your partners. And building that relationship with your partners through these discussions will build trust, and then it will help you solve problems together, which is what we are looking to do with this funding program. Beyond an initial discussion, you want to make sure that you hit some of these points as well. And so this isn't so much about the application, but how you get to the point where the application is filled in well. So you want to understand that you're collaborating. You're going to work together to understand how everyone can benefit and what you bring to the table. And you want to structure the project in a way that everybody is supported and everybody gets out from the project what they're hoping to get out. And once you understand what you want to do, there's also a business case that has to happen. And all of this needs to communicate to your leadership teams because they're ultimately supporting the project. And then get a strong project manager because it's a project between partners. And so there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of details to keep track of. Follow the guides that we've provided to help support the development of the proposal. So once you know the scope of what you're trying to approach, then work through the guide to make sure that you've hit many of the points that are in there. Everybody is going to approach proposal development differently, but what is very effective is starting with question 1, defining the vision of the project, and then everything else beyond that. All the other questions build from that first question. If you want feedback, and you have a draft or you have an idea, please again reach out at project@ngen.ca. Never email your proposals or details. Please use the secure portal. As you're working through the questions, you do not have to apply all the suggestions for each question, but use the ones that are most relevant to your project and be as comprehensive as possible. Consider the amount of funding being requested and the impact a project can have on leaving a legacy for manufacturing in Canada. We are really looking for bold projects that are transforming the way we work. Every project is unique, so include other pertinent information that's not covered in this guidance. Answer the questions. That's the most important part. What's in the guidance is what our assessment team will be marking on. And it's not an exam, but it does make a lot of sense to take the guidance and answer those questions as well as you can. Work with your partners. It's a strong application, demonstrates input from all of the partners in the application. And then as you're building the application, consider those pillars that we talked about earlier and try and draw a line between the work that you're doing and the NGen scope requirements. Where possible, provide evidence for your statements. And do you have market analysis or survey information that you could include as well? When you're doing that, make sure to use credible sources. And when you're putting your project together, think about what are the differentiating factors within your project that set it apart from other projects. Why this project? Why now? In your answer, clearly articulate the details for the question guidance. Assessors are looking for things to be very straightforward, and they may never have heard of your company before. Supporting documentation, graphs, charts, tables are your friends. Process diagrams are very effective and can convey a lot of information with very few words. You want to do either improvement comparisons, market projections, you want to show an economic case for the project that you have, provide a governance structure for the team so that we understand how you intend to work together. And then there is a table for the number of direct and indirect jobs in the short, medium, and long term. Avoid quoting the guidance back to the assessors. Save the words that you have within your character limit to answer the guidance. If you have any questions, we suggest starting with the guides that are provided on our website, and definitely reach out a project@ngen.ca and we will help you where we can.